The fall of the Cax. In the cold expanse of space, where stars twinkled like distant dreams, the Cax fleet fought valiantly against an overwhelming force. Captain Kezel stood on the bridge of his cruiser, the resolute, eyes fixed on the chaotic battlefield unfolding before him. The once proud ships of his people now drifted in disarray, their hulls punctured and smoking from relentless assaults by the Zorgan Empire. The Cax were a race known for their industriousness and resilience, having built a thriving civilization on their home planet of Caxora. However, as they ventured into the stars, they had drawn the attention of the expansionist Zorgan Empire, an ancient race with a thirst for conquest. The invasion had come swiftly. One moment they were negotiating trade agreements with neighboring systems, and the next, they were fighting for survival. Kezel's heart sank as he watched another Cax cruiser erupt into flames, its crew lost to the void. The Zorgan ships were massive, their sleek designs intimidating as they tore through the Cax defenses with ease. Each explosion echoed in Kezel's mind like a death knell for his people. He knew that morale was waning among his crew. Fear was palpable in the air. Status report. Kezel barked, trying to maintain control amid the chaos. His sensor officer, a young Cax named Lyra, turned from her console with wide eyes. "Captain, we've lost over 50% of our fleet. The Zorgan flagship is advancing towards us." Kezel clenched his fists at his sides. They had fought bravely but were simply outmatched. The Zorgan weapons cut through their shields like paper. Every tactical maneuver they employed seemed futile against this relentless enemy. He could feel despair creeping into his thoughts. Was this how it would end for his people? "Divert all power to forward shields," he commanded, determination igniting within him despite the odds stacked against them. "Prepare to engage at close range." As Lyra complied with his orders, Kezel's mind raced with strategies that had worked in previous battles, strategies that now felt inadequate. He glanced at his crew. They were young. Many had never seen true combat before this day. He felt a surge of protectiveness over them. He could not let them fall into despair. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the bridge as another wave of plasma torpedoes hurtled toward them. Kezel braced himself as he watched Lyra frantically adjust their shields to absorb the impact. The ship shuddered violently as explosions rocked its hull. "Damage report," Kezel shouted over the chaos. "Shields holding at 50%. Lyra replied breathlessly. "But we're taking heavy damage to our port side." Kezel's resolve hardened. He could not let fear dictate their fate. "All hands to battle stations. We will not go quietly into that dark night." As he rallied his crew, Kezel's thoughts turned to Zarthan, the ruthless emperor of the Zorgan Empire who orchestrated this invasion from afar. He was a figure cloaked in legend and terror, known for his unyielding ambition and brutal tactics. Kezel had heard tales of how Zarthan crushed entire civilizations underfoot without a second thought. In that moment, a flicker of hope ignited within him, a thought that perhaps they could still turn this tide if they fought together as one. Meanwhile, aboard Zarthan's flagship, the Fist of Conquest, the Emperor paced restlessly across his command deck. His scaled skin glistened under dim lights as he surveyed his victory through large viewports overlooking the battlefield. Each explosion brought him satisfaction. Each fallen enemy was a testament to his power. "Your Excellency," one of his advisors spoke up hesitantly, "the Cax are proving more resilient than anticipated." Zarthan's eyes narrowed in irritation. "Resilient? They are nothing but insects beneath my boot. Increase firepower. I want them crushed." His advisor nodded nervously, but hesitated before continuing. "There are reports from our scouts indicating an unknown vessel approaching from warp speed." Zarthan paused mid-stride, curiosity piqued by this unexpected news. "Unknown? What do you mean?" "It bears markings we've never encountered before," she replied quickly. "Prepare to intercept," he commanded sharply. "I want to know what we're dealing with." Back on the Resolute, Kezel felt a tremor run through his ship, a different kind of tremor than before. It was not just fear or damage. It was something new entirely, a sense that fate was shifting. New contact, Lyra exclaimed suddenly, her voice cutting through Kazel's thoughts like a knife. He turned sharply toward her console as she continued. A massive vessel just dropped out of warp. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. Kazel's heart raced as he peered through the viewport at this new arrival, a sleek ship bristling with weaponry that seemed almost alive in its elegance. It moved with purpose toward the fray, cutting through debris like a predator stalking prey. Is it friend or foe? Kazel asked urgently. Unknown, Lyra replied breathlessly as she monitored incoming transmissions. Just then, an image flickered onto their main screen. A human face filled with determination stared back at them. This is Captain Jason Reeves of the United Earth ship Defiant. We stand with you against Zorgan aggression. Kazel's breath caught in his throat as hope surged within him like a tidal wave. Could it be? Could humanity truly be here to help them? Form up on us, Captain Reeves continued confidently as explosions erupted around him on his ship's bridge. Together we can turn this battle around. Kazel exchanged glances with Lyra. They both felt it, the spark igniting within them all once more. Rally our remaining ships, Kazel ordered decisively, adrenaline coursing through him anew. We fight alongside these humans. As the Resolute maneuvered alongside Defiant, Kazel felt an unfamiliar sense of unity blossoming among his crew, a shared determination to fight back against their oppressors alongside these newfound allies. Little did they know that this alliance would change everything, not just for them, but for countless civilizations across galaxies yet unseen. With renewed vigor coursing through their veins and hope lighting their way forward, Captain Kazel prepared for what lay ahead, an epic confrontation against tyranny itself, one that would echo throughout history long after their final battle had been fought. This sets up an engaging narrative filled with conflict and character development while introducing themes of hope and unity amidst adversity. The arrival of humanity. The stars flickered in the void as the battle raged on, a chaotic ballet of destruction and desperation. Captain Jason Reeves stood resolutely on the bridge of the Defiant, his gaze fixed on the swirling mass of ships engaged in combat. The Cax fleet was in dire straits, their formations shattered, and their numbers dwindling rapidly under the relentless assault of the Zorgan Empire. The sight was grim, but Jason felt a surge of determination. They had arrived just in time. Status report, he barked, his voice cutting through the tension that hung thick in the air. His first officer, Commander Sarah Thompson, turned from her console, her expression grave. The Zorgan fleet is pressing their attack. The Cax have lost 70% of their ships. If we don't act quickly, they won't last much longer. Jason nodded, his mind racing with strategies. When Earth had received the distress call from Caxara, there had been heated debates among the high command about whether to intervene. Many were hesitant. Humanity was still new to the galactic stage, and engaging in an alien war could have unforeseen consequences. But Jason had lobbied hard for action, recognizing the strategic importance of aiding the Cax. They were industrious and resourceful, a vital ally against expansionist threats like the Zorgan. Prepare to engage, he commanded firmly. We need to make our presence felt. As the Defiant surged forward, its powerful engines roaring to life, Jason felt a sense of purpose wash over him. The ship was humanity's most advanced war vessel, a sleek dreadnought armed with quantum phase cannons and neutron torpedoes that could cut through enemy defenses like a knife through butter. He had faith in its capabilities and in his crew. Helm, plot a course to intercept the nearest Zorgan frigate, Jason ordered. Weapons officer, prepare for an alpha strike. The crew sprang into action, their movements efficient and practiced. Jason watched as they executed their tasks with precision. He was proud of them. They were ready for this fight. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the bridge as a new contact appeared on their sensors, massive and imposing. Jason's heart skipped a beat as he recognized it as Zarthan's flagship, the the Fist of Conquest. The ship was a behemoth, dwarfing even the Defiant, its hull bristling with weaponry designed for annihilation. "Captain," Sarah warned urgently, "the Zorgan flagship is changing course. It's heading straight for us." Jason's mind raced as he assessed their options. The Zorgan commander had finally realized that humanity posed a significant threat and was intent on eliminating them before they could turn the tide of battle. "Bring us about. Keep moving. Don't let them draw a bead on us," he ordered. The Defiant pivoted gracefully in space as its maneuvering jets fired, swinging its prow toward the approaching enemy while continuing to unleash fire upon other Zorgan vessels. Jason felt adrenaline coursing through him. This was what he had trained for. "Sarah, I need those neutron cannons prepped for a full volley," he instructed. "Divert power from the aft shield array if necessary." "Yes, sir," she replied crisply, her fingers flying over her console as she worked to comply with his orders. As Jason focused on the tactical display before him, he could see the chaos unfolding around them. The Cax ships fighting valiantly, but struggling against overwhelming odds. He knew they needed to act quickly. Every moment wasted could cost lives. "Captain," Sarah called out again, urgency lacing her voice. "The Zorgan flagship is entering the extreme range." Jason's heart raced as he leaned forward in his command chair. "Steady. Almost there." The tension on the bridge was palpable as they awaited their moment to strike. Finally, as the range indicator reached optimal firing position, Jason shouted, "Fire." A brilliant beam erupted from the Defiant's forward gun ports, a blue-white stream of energy that struck Zarthan's flagship head-on. The alien ship's shields flared under the impact, but failed spectacularly as the beam punched through its hull with devastating force. For a brief moment, silence reigned as both sides paused to witness the destruction unfolding before them. Then came a series of internal explosions that ripped through the Fist of Conquest, scattering debris across the void like confetti after a grim celebration. Cheers erupted on the Defiant's bridge as they witnessed their first victory against such formidable foes. But Jason quickly quelled any premature celebration with a sharp gesture of his hand. "Stay focused. We may have cut off the head of the snake, but there are still plenty of Zorgan out there," he reminded them sternly. He activated the fleet comm channel. "This is Captain Reeves to all Cax ships. Form up on us. Maintain a defensive sphere formation." As damaged Cax cruisers and frigates maneuvered around them, clustering tightly behind Defiant's shields while adding their remaining firepower to its own, Jason felt a renewed sense of hope blossoming within him. They were no longer alone. Together, they would fight back against this tyranny. Kazel gripped his armrests tightly aboard the Resolute, watching in awe as humanity's ship tore through Zorgan lines like a scythe through wheat. He had heard stories about humans, tales filled with exaggeration and bravado. But witnessing their prowess firsthand was something entirely different. "This is incredible," Lyra exclaimed from her console as she monitored incoming data streams from both fleets. Kazel nodded numbly. It was hard to believe that these humans had come to their aid just when all hope seemed lost. Captain Reeves coordinated their movements with an efficiency Kazel had never seen before, using Defiant as both shield and spear against their common enemy. "Take us into tight formation with Defiant. Match their maneuvers and add our firepower to theirs," Kazel commanded urgently. As the Resolute surged forward alongside its newfound ally, Kazel felt an unfamiliar sense of camaraderie building among his crew, a united front against oppression that transcended species and backgrounds. Meanwhile, aboard the Fist of Conquest, Emperor Zarthan seethed with rage at this unexpected turn of events. He stormed across his bridge like a caged beast, claws digging into metal decking with each furious step. "This invasion was supposed to be my magnum opus," he growled at his advisors who stood nervously at attention before him. "Those Cax were meant to be crushed underfoot. How could we have miscalculated so badly?" His censor officer piped up hesitantly. "Your Excellency, we've lost contact with several ships in our fleet." Zarthan spun around sharply, eyes blazing with fury at this news. "What do you mean lost contact? Are they retreating?" "No. It appears they've been destroyed by that human ship," she stammered nervously. Zarthan clenched his fists in frustration. This was not how it was supposed to go. He had underestimated humanity's resolve and technological superiority. Now they were facing an enemy unlike any they had encountered before. "Reinforce our lines. We will not be defeated by these upstarts," he roared defiantly. Back on Defiant, Jason felt adrenaline pumping through him as he directed his crew amidst this chaotic battlefield, filled with flashing lights and violent explosions. They were making progress. Slowly but surely they were turning the tide against Zorgan aggression. "Sarah," he called out over the din of battle noise, "coordinate targeting data with our CAX allies. We need to whittle down their numbers before they regroup." She nodded quickly and began relaying information between both crews, human and CAX alike, working together seamlessly for one common goal: victory against tyranny. As another wave of plasma torpedoes struck nearby ships within their formation, causing violent eruptions and scattering debris across space, once more Jason steeled himself for what lay ahead. The fight would not be easy, but together they would prevail. With renewed determination coursing through him alongside his crew members, both human and CAX alike, they would stand firm against oppression, no matter what challenges awaited them next. This part expands upon character dynamics, while illustrating how humanity's arrival alters the course of battle significantly for both sides involved in this epic confrontation against tyranny turning the tide. The battlefield was a cacophony of chaos, with explosions illuminating the darkness of space like fireworks on a grim holiday. Captain Jason Reeves stood at the helm of the Defiant, his eyes scanning the tactical display as he coordinated the united forces of humanity and the CAX. The tide of battle had begun to shift, but the Zorgan Empire was far from defeated. "Status report," Jason barked, his voice steady despite the turmoil around him. "Zorgan forces are regrouping," Commander Sarah Thompson replied, her fingers dancing over her console. "They're attempting to form a defensive line after losing their flagship. However, they still outnumber us significantly." Jason nodded, absorbing this information. The loss of the Fist of Conquest had rattled the Zorgan, but their sheer numbers posed a constant threat. The CAX ships, battered but resolute, had rallied behind Defiant, forming a defensive perimeter that showcased their newfound alliance. "Maintain our formation," Jason commanded. "We need to keep pressure on them while we regroup our forces, target their flanks, and hit them hard." As the Defiant surged forward, its weapons unleashed a torrent of fire upon the nearest Zorgan vessels. The quantum phase cannons roared to life, sending beams of energy slicing through enemy shields and hulls, while neutron torpedoes detonated with devastating force against the Zorgan fleet. Kezel watched from the Resolute, his heart pounding in his chest as he witnessed humanity's prowess firsthand. The Defiant moved with an elegance that belied its size, weaving through enemy fire while delivering punishing strikes. It was a sight to behold, one that filled him with both admiration and determination. "Captain, we're in position," Lara reported from her station. "Open fire," Kezel commanded, his voice firm and resolute. The CAX cruiser joined the fray, its weapon systems firing in unison with those of Defiant. As beams of energy shot forth, Kezel felt a surge of hope. They were no longer alone in this fight. Together, they could turn the tide against their oppressors. On board the Fist of Conquest, Emperor Zarthan seethed with rage as he watched his fleet falter under the combined assault. He paced back and forth across the bridge, claws digging into the metal flooring as frustration boiled within him. "This was supposed to be my greatest conquest," he growled at his advisors. "How could we have miscalculated so badly? Those humans are more formidable than I anticipated." His censor officer hesitated before speaking up. "Your Excellency, we've lost contact with several ships in our fleet. The humans have proven to be a significant threat." Zarthan's eyes narrowed as he processed this information. He had underestimated humanity's resolve and technological superiority. It was a grave error that could cost him everything. Reinforce our lines. We will not be defeated by these upstarts. Back on Defiant, Jason felt adrenaline coursing through him as he directed his crew amidst this chaotic battlefield, filled with flashing lights and violent explosions. They were making progress. Slowly but surely they were turning the tide against Zorgan aggression. Sarah, he called out over the din of battle noise. Coordinate targeting data with our CAX allies. We need to whittle down their numbers before they regroup. She nodded quickly and began relaying information between both crews, human and CAX alike, working together seamlessly for one common goal: victory against tyranny. As another wave of plasma torpedoes struck nearby ships within their formation, causing violent eruptions and scattering debris across space, once more Jason steeled himself for what lay ahead. The fight would not be easy, but together they would prevail. Kezel gripped the armrests of his command chair as another volley rocked his battered cruiser. Smoke poured from ruptured conduits while alarms blared ominously around him. He coughed, trying to peer through the haze at his viewscreen. It showed nothing but twisted wreckage where once proud vessels had floated gracefully through space. This is it, Kezel thought grimly. They had fought valiantly, but were simply outmatched by Zorgan might. Their fleet had come with overwhelming force, armed with weapons that cut through CAX shields like hot knives through butter. Yet just when despair threatened to overtake him completely, Lyra's voice broke through the fog of hopelessness. "Sir, new contact dropping out of warp. It's massive." Kezel snapped his head around to look at her screen, expecting yet another Zorgan monstrosity coming to finish them off, but instead saw a ship unlike any he had ever encountered before. It was sleek and predatory, all sharp angles and bristling gun batteries, and it dwarfed even the largest Zorgan battleships. As Kezel watched in awe, this newcomer opened fire, its weapons striking out with searing beams of light that pierced Zorgan hulls like paper. Mighty warships, ones that had shrugged off everything CAX had thrown at them, crumbled and burst under this onslaught. "It's incredible," Lyra exclaimed as she monitored incoming data streams from both fleets. Kezel could hardly believe what he was witnessing. The humans were here to fight alongside them. He had heard stories about them, tales filled with exaggeration, but now seeing their ship in action made him realize how wrong he had been. "This is Captain Jason Reeves of the United Earth ship Defiant," came a calm voice over their comm system. "We stand with you against Zorgan aggression. All ships form up on us. We'll take the lead." Kezel felt his jaw drop at this declaration. Hope surged within him like a tidal wave as he realized they might not just survive this day. They could win. "Take us into tight formation with Defiant. Match their maneuvers and add our firepower to theirs," Kezel commanded urgently. The CAX cruiser surged forward, taking its place in the perimeter established by their human allies as other CAX ships followed suit, the remnants of their once proud fleet rallying around this unexpected savior. Jason watched as Captain Kezel barked orders aboard the Resolute, feeling a sense of camaraderie building among both crews, a united front against oppression that transcended species and backgrounds. "Captain," Sarah reported urgently from her console, "the Zorgan are beginning to falter. Their formations are breaking apart under our combined assault." Jason felt a surge of exhilaration. They were turning the tide. "Keep pressing forward. We need to capitalize on this momentum." As they pressed deeper into enemy lines, Jason coordinated strikes against vulnerable Zorgan vessels while Kezel's ships darted out to harass enemy flanks. It was a masterful display of fleet combat, one that showcased not only humanity's technological prowess, but also the indomitable spirit of both races united against tyranny. With each passing moment, hope blossomed anew within Kezel's heart as he witnessed their enemies retreating under relentless fire from both human and CAX ships alike. For the first time since this battle began, he allowed himself to feel optimistic about their chances for survival, and perhaps even victory. But even amidst this growing confidence, Jason remained vigilant. There was still much work ahead before they could claim true victory over Zorgan oppression. As explosions lit up space around them, like stars being born in an endless void, the fight was far from over. But together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead. This part illustrates how unity between different species can create powerful alliances capable of overcoming overwhelming odds while showcasing character growth and determination amidst adversity. The heart of darkness. The chaos of battle raged on, but for Captain Jason Reeves, the tide had begun to turn. The combined forces of the Defiant and the Cax fleet were pushing back against the Zorgan Empire, and for the first time since the conflict began, a glimmer of hope shone through the darkness. As the ships maneuvered in tight formation, Jason felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were no longer fighting alone. "Status report," he commanded, his voice steady despite the tumult around him. "Zorgan forces are retreating." Sarah Thompson replied, her eyes wide with disbelief. "They're breaking formation and falling back." Jason allowed himself a moment of triumph. "Keep pressing forward. We can't let them regroup. Target their stragglers." The Defiant surged ahead, its weapon systems unleashing a torrent of fire upon the retreating Zorgan ships. Jason's heart raced as he watched enemy vessels explode in brilliant flashes of light, debris scattering into the void like remnants of a shattered dream. The Cax ships followed suit, their spirits lifted by this unexpected turn of events. Meanwhile, aboard the Fist of Conquest, Emperor Zarthan seethed with rage. His plans had crumbled before his eyes, and he could feel his grip on power slipping away. The loss of his flagship had dealt a severe blow to his authority, and now his once mighty fleet was in disarray. "Your Excellency," one of his advisors stammered, "we must regroup and reassess our strategy." Zarthan's claws dug into the metal railing as he glared at his advisor. "Regroup? We will not retreat from these upstarts. They have humiliated me. I will not allow it." His anger surged like a tidal wave, threatening to drown out all rational thought. He had underestimated humanity. This young race had proven to be far more dangerous than he had anticipated. The realization struck him like an asteroid impact. He had made a grave miscalculation. "Reinforce our lines," Zarthan shouted, his voice echoing through the bridge. "We will crush them once and for all. I want every ship ready to engage." As Zarthan barked orders, Jason continued to coordinate attacks with Kazal and the Cax forces. The camaraderie between their crews had blossomed into something remarkable. A shared determination to fight against oppression that transcended species and backgrounds. "Captain Kazal," Jason said over the comms, "let's flank their remaining vessels. We'll cut off their escape routes and force them to fight." "Understood, Captain Reeves," Kazal replied, his voice steady with newfound confidence. "We'll follow your lead." As they executed their maneuvers, Jason felt a surge of adrenaline coursing through him. They were no longer simply defending against an invasion. They were fighting for survival, for their homes and families, and they would not back down. The remnants of the Zorgan fleet attempted to regroup but found themselves trapped between the advancing Defiant and the Resolute. The Cax ships darted in and out of enemy lines, harassing flanks, while Jason's crew unleashed devastating volleys against any vessel that dared to stand in their way. "Keep up the pressure," Jason urged as explosions lit up space around them, like stars being born in an endless void. But even as victory seemed within reach, Zarthan was not finished yet. He had one last desperate gambit planned, a move that could turn the tide back in his favor. "Prepare for a full assault," he commanded with a fierce intensity. "We will unleash everything we have left on those humans. They will know our wrath." As Zarthan's ships reoriented themselves for one final push, Jason sensed a shift in the atmosphere around him, a tension that crackled like electricity in the air. "Sarah," he said urgently, "what's happening?" "The Zorgan are consolidating their forces," she replied quickly. "They're preparing for a massive counterattack." Jason's heart sank as he realized they were about to face everything Zarthan had left. Kazal, we need to fortify our defenses now. Prepare for incoming fire. The two captains coordinated their efforts as they braced for impact. The Zorgan fleet unleashed a barrage of plasma torpedoes and energy beams that illuminated space like lightning strikes in a storm. Brace for impact. Jason shouted as alarms blared throughout the ship. The Defiant shuddered violently under the assault but held firm. Its shields flared brightly as they absorbed the incoming fire. Jason gripped the armrests of his command chair tightly, determination etched across his face. We can't let them break through. He urged his crew. Return fire. Target their lead ships. As they unleashed retaliatory strikes against the Zorgan vessels, Kazal felt an overwhelming sense of dread wash over him. This was it, the moment that would define their fate. Lyra, he shouted over the din of battle. Status report. We're taking heavy damage. She cried out, her fingers flying over her console as she monitored their systems. Shields are down to 30%. Kazal cursed under his breath. They needed to hold on just a little longer. He glanced at Jason's ship, the Defiant, and saw its shields flickering but still holding strong under relentless fire. Keep firing. Kazal commanded fiercely. We can't give up now. With renewed determination coursing through him alongside his crew members, both human and Cax alike, they would stand firm against oppression, no matter what challenges awaited them next. But just as hope began to flicker once more amid this chaotic struggle, Zarthan unleashed his final weapon, an experimental warhead designed to obliterate everything in its path. Fire at will. He roared with manic glee as he pressed the button that would unleash devastation upon their foes. A blinding flash erupted from the fist of conquest, illuminating space with an intensity that momentarily blinded everyone on both sides of the conflict. No, Jason shouted as he realized what was happening. Kazal, get your ships out of there. But it was too late. The warhead detonated with cataclysmic force, a shockwave rippling outward and engulfing everything in its vicinity. For a moment, time seemed to stand still as debris rained down like confetti after a grim celebration. Then silence fell over the battlefield once more. As dust settled across what remained of both fleets, the once proud Cax cruisers lay scattered among twisted wreckage, while Defiant stood resolute amidst this desolation, a testament to humanity's resolve despite overwhelming odds. Jason surveyed the aftermath with heavy heart. They had fought valiantly, but at great cost. Their victory came at a price that would haunt them forevermore. We did it, Sarah whispered incredulously beside him as she took stock of their surroundings, her voice trembling with disbelief amid this chaos-turned victory. But even amidst this growing confidence, Jason remained vigilant. There was still much work ahead before they could claim true victory over Zorgan oppression. In that moment, amidst destruction and despair, Kazal felt something stir within him, hope reborn from ashes, a promise that together they would rise again stronger than ever before. As both crews mourned losses while celebrating survival together, they forged an unbreakable bond that transcended species, one forged in battle against tyranny itself. With renewed strength coursing through each heart beating within those battered ships, they vowed never again would they allow darkness to reign unchecked across galaxies yet unseen. And so began not just an alliance born from necessity, but rather one destined for greatness, a partnership between humans and Cax that would echo throughout history long after this final confrontation had been fought. This concluding part encapsulates both triumph and tragedy, while highlighting themes of resilience and unity against oppression, a fitting resolution to this epic tale.